now. And even though I'm doing this last, it should actually be where anyone starts off first, because neutral cards can obviously be used with all of the different splinters. So therefore, they're some of the most valuable cards. Typically, neutral cards are a little bit worse statistically than their parts for an individual splinter, but they make up for it because they can be used with all different splinters. This is similar to Dragon, but Dragon's a little bit different because normally Dragon will cost more mana and have similar stats to the individual splinters, but also can be used with all different splinters. So just to begin with, if you haven't joined, if you are building a modern deck, or if your deck is completely empty and you're just playing with the starter cards, these are the cards that you'll have. If you only look at neutrals, these are the cards you'll have. So a lot of them don't get used. There are some amazing cards here when they get their levels. So like a supply runner is fantastic as soon as it gets to level 5, because then it gets swiftness. Having that extra speed is really, really strong. Elven Mystic and Tower Griffin are some of the most underrated cards, because the one gets silence, so it's super good against anti-magic, and then a Tower Griffin gets protect, so it just helps any decks that don't have armor get armor. So very good, useful cards. Mantoid, classic, one of the best archer cards in the game. In terms of like Elven Defender and a Disintegrator, they're not the best tanks. Parasitic Growth is not the best opportunity card, but it's decent. Monk is actually not too bad, because at level 2 he gets heal, and he's got a lot of HP. Very bad damage though, so you want to get him into Gold League so he gets that 2 damage. Eventually even gets Void. But these are the cards that you'll all have when you first start the game. So I think we'll just start where we normally start and look at the reward and the dice commons and rares. So the main thing is you don't have to worry about alpha beta promos, because that's obviously edition 1, which is now going to be used only for wild. So some of the best neutral cards are leaving the game right now. So if you look at the commons and rares, it's Sandworm, Battering Ram, Gargoyle Lion, Gargoyle Devil. These are the ones that are playable. The rest are all leaving. And if you've watched any of my previous guides, Goblin Mech is one of the better first tanks when you first start the game, for like equalizer games, or just even when you just first start the game, he's one of the strongest tanks with piercing and lots of damage. Creeping Ooze and a Furious Chicken are the most used cards in the game. To put it in context, the reason a Furious Chicken is so good and it's still worth $24 is it's basically worth 4 fiends in one. It's $24, but it's much better than that because you can use it with all of the different elements, and you can use it in no legendaries. And then now if you're playing wild, you could use it with an additional fiend, so you could have 2 zero cost monsters, but you don't have to worry about that, and you don't have to buy that right now. Gluttonous Cube is a classic. A lot of it gets really strong when it gets heal, because then it's really good in just out sustaining your opponents, because it's also got a ridiculously high amount of HP. The modern version now would be the Water Legendary Whale, and then a Prismatic Energy is also just a classic. You buy this for anti-magic, super amount, like a ton of HP for a level 1 card. Not good damage, but magic reflect, so this is like a perfect level 2 card. But once again, you don't have to worry about these cards. So I think out of these ones, the only one you have to really worry about is picking up a Sandworm. It's out of print, so definitely worth spending $1. Oops, not $100. We just need a $1 one. So good thing about this card is, even though it's very slow with 1 speed, it is 5 damage, which is more than most, so it's really good for equalizer games, and it's also really good for 99 mana games, because you've got this big heavy hitter punching at their back wall. I mean, also for reverse speed, I guess. Battering Ram, you don't have to pick one up, but it's quite nice to have one. So this would be really good with your Tarsa, but ideally you want a little bit more speed. Probably a level 3 or 4 would be ideal. But if you play with Tarsa and you get a reverse speed, having a 2 damage, 2 HP, 1 speed card could be useful, but that's very situational. I use the Sandworm a lot more, and I think the rest you don't have to worry about. So now when we go back and we look at the epics, so of these epics, if you're just having a level 1, I wouldn't worry too much about Onyx Sentinel. There are a lot of other cards that offer this, in the sense of a tanky shield that has 6 HP and doesn't do any damage. There's a few other cards that are better than an Onyx Sentinel, so I wouldn't worry about buying one. Magi of Chaos is really cool. If you look at him compared to the Tortizan Chief, same speed, 1 mana more, and you get that 1 damage more. With the Chief, if you can get it to level 2, you do get that damage. Where with the Magi of Chaos, if you get it to level 2, you just get the HP. Where the Chief, you get the HP and the damage. So if you have the money to get a Chief to level 2 is better, because you get the exact same card as the Chaos, Magi of Chaos. Same speed, same HP, same damage, except it's one mana less, so it is the better card. But that changes at level 3, because at level 3, Magi of Chaos will get the 1 extra damage, where the Chief does not get anything but 1 speed. So it depends on how your budgets are, and also what decks you're playing and what level your summoners are. But if it's only going to be a level 1 deck, I think you'd rather pick up a Magi of Chaos, because obviously you're going to be starting the game. You'd rather spend $1.5 than $18. It makes more sense. The 1 mana difference is not worth getting that extra damage, as well as the fact that you're basically paying more than 10 times less. Okay, so a Gem Meteor, really cool. It reminds me a lot of a Mantoid, but the main difference with him is that it's the damage. It's got really good speed, decent HP. Ideally you want it to be level 3 for that extra damage, but a level 1's not bad, it doesn't hurt, so it still could be worth it. I'll add it to the list for now, but we might swap it out later. In terms of a Grenadier and a Eurus, I don't think a Grenadier is a good idea because of that 1 HP. Don't have to worry about it. For the Snake, you will get the Snake in drops. It has not, there's still a lot of it in print, so you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, like I said, you don't have to worry about it right now. You will get one. It is a good card, but once again, you want to have a leveled summoner, so that way you can get a level 2 out, so that you can get that damage. Because if you get that 1 extra damage, and then you can play this with your Tarsa, you've got a 3 damage, 3 HP with armor Sneak Assassin, which is really good. But for now, I'll pick up the... Oh! Most important is the Warchang. I forgot about this. This has always been one of my favorite cards from the beginning. I'm not going to buy from AoE 4. I will buy from the Tattoo. So the reason this card is so good is because it's... So when it's in position 1, it can't shoot its archer bolts, and when it's in any position that's not position 1, it can't attack melee. But what this card's great for is any opportunity games, it can then shoot archers and melee attack. Any super stealth games, it can shoot archers and attack. It's got a lot of HP, so this is like in like super stealth, opportunity, even just 99 mana games, you could put this in position 2 or position 3 just to like shoot some archers, and then eventually when it gets into position 1, you've got a melee monster with Retaliate. I use this card all the time. It's still one of my favorites. I can't recommend Warchang enough. So at the moment we've got the Sandworm, Magi of Chaos, Gem Meteor, and the Warchang, and we have not even gone to the legendaries. Okay, so when looking at the legendaries, so I did say for the Onyx Sentinel that there is a better version, which is the Alma Cambino. It's 2 mana more, but nearly double HP more. But when you compare that to something like a Lord A has Shield and Void, where Almo Combiner only has immunity, but then eventually it gets phased, returned via Magic Reflect, where Lord A eventually gets Shield, Thorns, Magic Reflect, Thorns. So Lord A is more comparable to a Onyx Sentinel, but I think if you just need level 1 cards, you don't need to worry about these type of cards yet, because you would typically be in bronze, if not low silver, and your best cards or your most damage dealing cards at that rank is actually your melee or your position 1 cards, something like your Chain Golems or your Living Lavas or your Grums or your Mystic Mustang. So you don't have to worry about these. I don't like the Legionnaire. I think his damage is just too bad. I'd rather play with the other frontline tanks given by the Splinters. Spirit Hoarder is a really cool card. Useful. It reminds me a lot of Mystic Mermaid, which is obviously the water card that does it as well. Let's just confirm that I'm not crazy. It is promo. What is the name? Mermaid Healer, sorry. It reminds me a lot of Mermaid Healer, and that's cool. So, honestly, from the neutral legendaries, I would say it's probably the one that you would use the most, especially in low mana games, which is more common in bronze and silver. You'd put this in position 2, if not position 3, and then it would protect your backline, especially in games like Super Stealth. You would use it a lot. The other card would be a Dr. Bright, but the reality is I don't want to recommend you a card. Dr. Bright gets much better when he gets Poison and eventually Scavenger, but definitely Poisons when he becomes a lot more stand out, and then at level 3 gets that extra damage. So I wouldn't even recommend it to you guys right now. Spirit Miner is a really cool card actually, especially at level 2 when it gets Swiftness. Level 3 it gets Blind, so it gets even better. But once again, these aren't cards that I want to recommend because we are on a budget, and if you were to spend $57 or $107, there are many better cards to spend it on. So would not recommend. Just out of the legendaries, just grab yourself a Spirit Hoarder. You can play it with your Earth Magic deck, or you can put it in with your other decks that lack other magic cards, so that you've got a different source of damage. So we're at 5 cards now, and yeah, these are the cards I recommend. Cheers, guys. So please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you want me to do next. And if you're a new player, please use the promo code and I'll happily send you the $0.5 back to you. It just lets me know that people are watching and using the promo, and I'm helping new players join the community. Also, if you find me on the Discord, just pop me a message. I'll happily delegate any of the new players some power.